look at the big air. Oh, that's Josh running wide. Look how close they are. And away they go. The two Subarus get away fairly evenly. Kieran tries to go in wide. Oh, Tom's hit Kieran. But Josh goes back on the inside. Gary goes wide. Mike goes up the inside of Gary. Oh, there's a bit of a tap there. Oh, there's Craig has pushed Sam into the wall. Josh Hardy wins his second ever win and the second win of the day. Chris doing more rallycross in the BMW than actual touring car racing, and it's the first win for Mark Nicol in the Renault Megane. Joe's definitely going to get it. A fantastic win for Heafy on his debut event, his first ever win in the Nissan GTR, unless Kieran can make a last minute dive. And he does, and Mark Nicol is 6th, which means he's the independent champion for season 2. Craig Keller in the Nissan GTR is going to be a win for Craig. Craig Keller is going to take the win in this race. Craig Keller is your season 2 FWTC champion. So firstly a points update then. After race 1, Craig is leading 219, Darren on 211 after Craig gets the win and the pole, also the fastest lap. So 8 points in it at the moment, but it's definitely all to play for. So Darren will definitely need to be being ahead of Craig for the second race. Josh still isn't too far behind after a good result with 178. Mark is now up to 462. So in the teams then, Elliott are just 1 point ahead of DC after the points were calculated there. So very much anything happening there. K&N still a little bit far behind, but also could fight for the title. In the independents, Josh got a good points haul, 263 to 247 on Connor. So Connor really needs to get back up ahead of Josh, and to be honest, it needs to be Josh getting a poor result for this one for Connor to stand a chance really going into the final race. Let's have a look at the grid then for race 2. The 2 title contenders at the front row of the grid, with Craig Keller in the Nissan GTR and Darren Parker in the BMW for DC Motorsports. Row 2 is Josh Hardy and Gary Black in their Renault Meganes for the independents. Row 3 is Mark Nicol in the K&N Nissan GTR next to Tom Foster in the K-Tech Racing Ford Mustang. Row 4 is Harry Cook in the second of the BMW for DC Motorsports next to another BMW of Joe McCall. Row 5 is Joe Burrows in the Hyundai Genesis next to Connor Hewlett in the Subaru WRX. Row 6 is Alan Stretton in the Subaru WRX next to Mike Kuipers in the K&N Nissan GTR. Row 7 of course is Kieran Thomas in the second of the Ford Mustangs for K-Tech Racing next to Stephen Heath in Hyundai Genesis. And at the back row of the grid we've got Rob Pellet in the Nissan GTR for Elliott Racing, and of course Chris Hensby in the Subaru WRX takes up the back row of the grid. Here we go then. Darren Parker needs to get ahead of Craig Keller in the first corner at least, or if not at some point in this race, to really stand a good chance of taking the title, as Craig has got the advantage. But Craig gets a good start. Oh, there's a bit of a push, and that's Darren and that's Mark off. So I wonder if that was Josh that pushed him off. And that's Chris Hensby off in the gravel as well. So this is the worst start for Darren. Where is Darren? Let's see if I can find him. He's actually down in 15th, nearly last. So horrendous start for Darren. So Craig is leading then. Josh is second. Gary is third. And then we've got the Hyundai. We've got Alan Stretton and the Subaru. Looks like Connor was going wide there. Let's watch the start again then and watch Darren to find out what happened, as he actually went off with Mark Nicol, it looked like. So was it Mark that went into him, or was it someone else? Yeah, unfortunately it looks like it was Mark that took him off. He just went into the gravel, but then that slowed him right down. Let's go on board with Mark from the start here then. So Mark gets a good start, gets just ahead of Josh, sorry, and there's the contact, and that's Darren going off in the gravel as they all settle down then. Let's go on board with Connor. So Connor is in 7th position, and he's actually got Mike Kuipers on the side of him here. It's good to see Mike is much further up the field compared to Le Mans, where he really struggled on those tyres. So Mike goes up to 6th. McConnell's on the inside. Can he get past? It's not to be this time, and he slips in behind Mike. Mark is behind, so Connor now in the K&N sandwich. Further down, Rob is in 10th, and Darren is making very good progress so far, as he's up to 11th now, so quickly getting back up the field where he needs to be. But this is at the moment the worst case scenario for Darren, as if Craig continues leading, he will get maximum points, and it'll make life very difficult for Darren to take the title. Oh, bit of contact between the two K&Ns there. A robust move from Mark. I think he outbraked himself and actually ended up going into Mike, but luckily unaffected. So we've got a interesting fight here between Joe Burrows and Alan Stretton, with Connor Hewlett in the back as well for 4th, 5th and 6th. So Connor's on the inside, gets past Joe Burrows, so Joe down to 6th now, with Mark just behind him. And Mark's got up on the inside, pushes him wide. Connor goes wide as well, so Connor, whoa, so someone, is that, no, it's not Darren, that's actually Harry who's gone wide. Harry is off the circuit, and he reverses, gets back on the track. And I've said this before with Harry, he's, you know, really good on the qualifying, but just gets involved in some of the mid-pack fighting, and he's really unlucky this season to be pushed down to the back of the grid a few times. So we'll have a look at the replay, find out what happened to Harry, and see if it was Harry's fault or someone else's. Let's watch Harry. He goes down into the dip and up, and I wonder if Joe was anything to do with his spin out. No, it's not. Harry did it himself. Lost the back end onto the grass. No one to blame but Harry. On board with Harry then. Yeah, just puts the foot down, gets the power too early. So Craig still leading, and leading by a very comfortable distance, with Josh and Gary fighting for 2nd and 3rd. A really good independence Renault Megane battle going on here, showing how confident these independents have become this season. It's not just about the teams, but rumours have it for season 4, plenty of teams joining up, as both Josh and Gary are rumoured to be joining with teammates, both new into the series, so we'll see what happens with that come season 4 in 2021. So Alan Stretton's still in 4th. This is good for Alan again. He showed some really good pace at Lago, which is the only other race he's done. So just a small tester for Alan this season before he goes for the full season. And he has managed to get himself actually ahead, and comfortably ahead now in 4th. So Kieran in 10th, Joe, Tom, Heathy and Tom having a battle here. So Tom's dropped down. Tom was looking fairly comfortable in a 6th position finish in race 1, but at the moment he's dropped down, so something must have happened with Tom. And oh, that's Heathy running very wide, so luckily he gets out of the way of Tom, and that's the two Hyundais running together here. And in actual fact, it's unusual to see them running this far behind. The two Hyundais actually strong together in the last few races. An actual potential title contenders with Joe in fourth in the title, but unfortunately they seem to be struggling here so far. Further down, Chris Hensby in 14th with Rob Pellet. He must have heard an off at some point, and then Harry still trying to rebuild after his off earlier on. So lap 8 of 27 so far. It's a lot of laps only because it's a very, very short lap. And as we continue to watch Craig lead, this is just helping him to get one hand on the trophy for the second year running. And Darren was looking pretty good to snatch that title away after a really strong showing at Le Mans, but Craig has come back fighting big time, and after winning race 1 is now looking really in the driving seat for that title. Josh and Gary still fighting out for third, and nothing really changing there, but still looking good. Alan has dropped back, so I think Alan must have had an off. And there is Darren Parker, that's our other title contender. He is moving up now, up to 6th. So Darren looking really strong after that off, probably really frustrated. And as they say, you do drive a lot better when you're angry. So he's really got to push. He's got to give it his all or nothing really, because it's nothing else for Darren other than that second place. So he's just got to keep calm now and see if he can get past Connor. And as he gets up to these higher positions, it's going to become just a little bit more difficult to get past. As both Connor and Mark also fighting for their own battles. Connor is doing well here. Oh, that's Alan. Alan's off, and lucky really not to spin it completely. Does a bit of rallycross, gets back on the track, so Alan drops down to 9th even further after being in 4th, so that's a bit of a shame. But as I was saying, everyone having their own battles here, and Connor is in 5th, but it's not going to be enough really with Josh in 2nd. So at the moment it's looking like also Josh is managing to get one hand on that title to take it back from Mark Nichol. Of course, Mark not in the independents this season, so Josh desperate to get that title back off of him after winning it in season 1. So Gary and Josh having a great battle here still. Gary looking very racy, and Josh is defending hard, and whoa, he's nearly, both of them nearly on the gravel, but both continue on to lap 12. Darren still in 6th as Craig is leading comfortably. Mark still 4th, Connor is 5th, Darren is 6th with Mike Kuipers behind him in 7th, and there is Joe McCall. Unfortunately Luke not available to race tonight after being another outsider contender in the independents. Alan still in 9th, Heathy is 10th with Joe 11th, and there is Chris Hensby. So somewhere is Tom and Kieran. Look at this. So Tom and Kieran are both down to 14th and 15th, so really struggling with those Mustangs around here. Tom returning after a 2 event break and to make the final, but maybe a bit too long away after having to get back into that car to get used to it again. Harry probably really demotivated at the moment, but continues on. So lap 14 for Craig, and Craig is actually beginning to potentially catch up Harry and the 2K ticks of Tom and Kieran to overtake and overlap them. So blue flags will come to play in this potentially, again, as the short nature of the circuit means that easily the leader can catch up. Josh and Gary still fighting for 2nd and 3rd, but Gary's dropped off. He isn't quite as close as what he was before. Mark is still 4th, and there's Connor and Darren. So Darren is really on the back of Connor here, but as you can see, the progress that Darren's making is really slowed in the last few laps as Connor is making it very, very difficult for Darren to get past. Down into the first dip down the right hand corner. It's a roller coaster, down and then up again round to the hairpin. Darren and Connor are together and still side by side. Darren runs a little bit wide on the grass, so does Joe McCall behind him, and Mike is there as well. So if Darren isn't careful, he will potentially get past by Joe, and that, as we said, is the danger of Darren really pushing for Connor, and he's actually let past Joe. So Joe is now in 6th and Darren is down to 7th, so Darren drops down and loses more points to Craig as Craig still leads. And that's Darren there looking like he wants to try and get past. So this is the points situation as we look on from here. Oh, as I say that's Joe running wide. So Joe hits the grass. Darren is back up to 6th now. But yeah, looking at those points, it's easy to see why Darren really needs to get past these next few cars. Otherwise, Craig will have a massive lead. On board with Connor as we watch. In the distance is Mark. Mike is behind him. Can Darren get past? I think he might have got him. Connor runs wide. Whoa! Connor sideways. He's in the gravel. He hits the wall. He hits the tyre wall, but he just about maintains the car and but drops down to 8th. So that's actually allowed Darren to get through into 5th now. Darren's up to 5th, so that's more points. It's still not going to be enough to really put a comfortable fight in for the title. But of course, don't forget the reverse grid draw will really shake things up, and if Craig gets caught up in the traffic, Darren could take the title, but it's not over yet. Gary and Josh still fighting. This is good for Josh. He just needs to stay out of the trouble, continue in for the independents. Gary again showing how strong he's become in that Renault for this season. So Craig is coming up to one of the back markers now, and I think it might be Tom. It is indeed, and there's Tom. So Harry's got past Tom and picks up a position. Could potentially get past Kieran as well here. Rob's still in 13th. Another quiet race for Rob. And that's Alan Stratton going wide again. So Alan's on the gravel. That's a real shame for Alan. And he's really dropping off now, out of his rhythm. After being in 4th, he's down to 11th. Back up to where we need to watch then. Mike is behind Darren here. Let's watch Darren as he looks to take the fight to Mark now for 4th position. Of course, once he gets past Mark, he's got a big gap and a big push to get to both Josh and Gary in 3rd and 2nd in those Renaults. Oh, that's nearly wide for Darren, but it's nearly wide for Mark. As you can see, Mark just about regains control of the car, and that's slow on to the hairpin then, and that's allowed Darren to get up behind him. So Darren now looking for that 4th position. More points means it's going to be better for the fight in race 3 into the final race of the season. And if you can see where Darren is now, if you compare it to where the two Renaults are around the first corner, and where Craig is, he's already down to this next left sharp corner, so almost half a lap practically ahead. We are on to lap 21, potentially 22, with Craig being that far ahead. And there's a little bit of contact, and it's a bit of a push. I think it's quite safe and quite fair. Darren gets ahead of Mark then. So Mark and Mike Kuipers, both K&N Nissans, are running together, but they're behind Darren. So Darren, oh, as I say that, Mark has pushed back into fourth. It's a fantastic move there from Mark. So Darren right in the thick of it here for that extra few points that's really going to help him, and he's now got Mike on him. It's a sandwich between the two Nissans, and Darren's got to push. Whoa, he's still in between it, and this is the last thing that Darren wants, because it's going to slow him down. Look at Connor and Joe potentially catching up, and this is dangerous stuff, because Darren doesn't want any fights. He just needs to stay on the track. If he falls off and goes into the gravel or anything else, that's pretty much going to be game over for Darren, and it's going to make it incredibly hard for him to try and snatch that title away from Craig. On to lap 23 then. Darren is back up ahead of Mark, but Mark is still saying no and having none of it. And he's got back up on the wrong side for the next corner, but he's side by side with Darren. More contact, and look how it slowed him down. So now Mike is pushing again, and Connor and Joe are there as well, watching on board with Mark. A little bit of contact, it's a little bit messy. Things are getting unsettled between these. Whoa, Mike nearly going off the track. Sorry, Mark nearly going off the track. So Darren has got away from this 4-pack now. The two Nissans are fighting with Connor and Joe. And that looks like Connor. No, I thought Connor was going to go wide. I have to say though that both these Nissans are fighting for 5th and 6th. So what this means is that it's going to be a good points haul for K&N. But Mike has actually dropped down now, so that's a real shame. Oh, that's Mark. Mark has tail fished, and he has gone off the circuit. So I think he needs to recover from that. Darren comes round to head on to lap 25, so 4th might be the best that Darren can do. Mark, so on to Gary and Josh, and Gary and Josh have been like this for the whole race. Gary just cannot get past Josh here. At the same time, both Josh and Gary cannot catch up and keep up with Craig, who is unbelievably quick in that Nissan. Whoa, Gary nearly having a look on the inside, but not to be. So Darren's still in 4th, and now we've got Joe McCall in a good position behind him, and that's Darren, but Darren spun it. Darren spun out. Darren Parker is nearly in the pits, and he's struggling to get his car back facing the right way. Down to 8th, potentially down to 9th. Stretton gets past, so do the two Hyundais. Darren is down to 11th. Can you believe this? This is developing into an absolute nightmare for Darren, and this is not what he wanted, it's not what he needed, and it really is slipping away for Darren now, the title. Absolute chaos. So let's have another look at the incident then to see what happens. I think he might have just got the wheels on the gravel, and that's all it took to spin him around. So let's have a look now. So let's just watch Darren then as he comes around the last corner. And that's all it took, it's just the gravel, and he's nearly got into the pits other than the barrier stopping him, and then that's where he struggled to get the car facing the right way, and eventually gets back on the track. Let's have a look at the onboard then, and as you can see, gets a good exit on the corner, just a little bit too much power. Yeah, it's a big shame for Darren. Yeah, there we go. So unfortunately it was just the gravel that spun him, and now 11th, and it's just way too less of the laps for Darren to really catch up. Joe still ahead of Connor and the two Nissans of Mike and Mark, but on the other end of the spectrum, it's been the perfect day so far for Craig Kellett, who takes race 2. and he is on his way to taking another title. All he needs to do is keep calm and stay out of trouble for race 3. Josh Hardy takes second then, just ahead of Gary. The two Renaults, the two independents, a really good battle and a good points haul for those. Joe is 4th, Connor 5th, Mark is 6th, Mike is 7th. It was a good battle between those. Of course it was involving Darren as well, but he spun out. Alan Stretton gets back up to 8th, the two Hyundais, the 9th and 10th of Joe and Heathy. And look at that, Darren Parker 11th position as he can't make any positions up. Rob 12th, Chris Hensby 13th, so he'll be happy with that. Harry was 14th, Tom and Kieran at the back. Craig gets his second win of the day then, and is that little bit closer to his second title in a row. Josh is second, Gary is third, Joe McCall is 4th, Connor's 5th, Mark 6th, Mike 7th, Alan was 8th, Joe Burrows 9th, Stephen Heath 10th, Darren 11th after a spin out late in the race, Rob 12th, Chris 13th, Harry was 14th, Kieran and Tom both at the back in the K-Tech Ford Mustangs, which is quite disappointing. What this means then for the title, Craig is on 260, Darren on 228. That is how much of a difference the points is because of Darren's off late in that race. Josh is actually catching Darren now and is actually not that far away, so Darren not only is probably not going to take the title unless Craig has a bad result, but Josh could snatch second away from Darren as well, so a nightmare for Darren. 4th is now Mark, who's gone ahead of Joe after a good set of results. 5th obviously Joe, 6th is Mike, 7th Rob, 8th is Harry, who goes up a position. Connor also up to 9th there as well, with Kieran down to 10th after a poor result. The rest follow on from there. What this means then for the teams, Elite Racing are leading still 485, DC 462 as K&N go ahead with 467. So because of their result and Darren's poor result with Harry obviously getting spun out, that means that K&N could take away the title from Elliot or second from DC. So that's going to be really close. HB on 399, K-Tech on 322, and in the independents, Josh is quite far ahead now, 30 points ahead, 303 to 273 for Connor. So Josh also in the same position as Craig with one hand on the title coming into the last race. Josh really needs to lose it by having a poor result with Connor needing to win at least, let's say. Gary 228, so getting a good set of results, but I think he's going to be safe with third. Joe's the next one down, 158, as Luke isn't here with 141. The rest follow on from there.